I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, September the 21st, brought to you in part by the Witex Corporation. Established in 1967, Witex is deeply rooted in the livestock industry, and they provide excellence in animal health, including but not limited to all-American ID tags for all classes of livestock. For more information on Witex, go to y-tex.com. A peak or a plateau? I've said that before whenever we were going on a rally, but we just wonder, what are we climbing here? Talking about the market, and we're climbing. And I think we need to kind of back off and look at it. I've talked to several of my friends that we visit about the market all the time in the past several days, and some of them are getting nervous, some of them are getting more bullish, some of them don't really know what to do, but they think this is feeling like 2014, and I don't disagree with them there. But you know, when we climb this, and I always think about the mountain climber on that game on the Price is Right, that's yodeling as he's moving up through the deal, and then if you go over the price, then he drops off the other edge. Is that what we're climbing, a peak like that? Like we did in 2014, if you remember. It retreated faster than it went up, and it went up pretty fast. We thought at that time that we were going to be able to enjoy some of that good market for a while. And it wasn't necessarily a black swan that come in and knocked that. It's just that we found out that the market was climbing really artificially. We've talked about that before. We had some interests that were pushing the board more than they should have been able to. We all enjoyed it as it was going up, but whenever they found that out, and I mean the rug was pulled out from under it. And I mean, we were in a free fall after that. But you know, fats are still near record highs. We're trying to get back to the all-time record of 188, which hadn't been that long ago, earlier in the summer that it happened. But still, fats are $40 higher than they were a year ago. That sounds like a lot, especially when it's so hard to gain a buck in that negotiated trade. Boxed beef is not nearly as high as it has been. Of course, you remember the gouging that went on during COVID under light production, and your packers just kept gouging, and I don't know that we'll ever reach those levels again. But they've significantly pulled back on production or harvest of the last several weeks here, in the last few months really. But it's still kind of struggling. I mean, you know, if you look at it historically, it's very, very high. It's still quite a bit higher, $53 higher than a year ago on choice cuts. That's a lot, but it's not nearly as high as it's been before. Calves, it's hard to gauge calves. Calves are near as high as they got back in 2014, but yearlings are a lot higher than they've ever been before. We've never seen these cash index levels, these different weights, 8 and 9 weight yearlings get as high as they are now. Some of them bring $2,500 per head. That is a lot. But I was reminded by some folks that feeder flash gang members that made comments on my video, if we equal it out with the inflation that we've seen, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, it wouldn't be as high as it was. Or you know, it wouldn't be as high as it was in 2014, because we've had some serious inflation here. But most of us can remember 2014. I was working as a market reporting supervisor up in St. Joe, Missouri, and I was backgrounding about as many cattle as I could in my spare time and on the weekends. But I felt like I was doing quite a bit, turning 2 or 3 loads a year. Just buying odd cattle and then putting them together and making bunches or trying to make loads out of them. And you know, and it took up most of my time, but I really enjoyed it. But just in that little dab of cattle, of course, I wasn't worried about burning through my equity, because I didn't have any equity. It was all on borrowed money and leased grass. But in 2014, I made more on my small cattle operation, backgrounding operation, than my annual salary was working for USDA. And I thought I had a pretty good job. So needless to say, I thought there was never going to be another poor day, but just happened to be going through a divorce at that time, and that ate pretty much all of it up. Why are divorces so expensive? Because they're worth it. But not really. It all turned out good in the long run. But you know, that very next year, 2015, of course, I was born in there deeper than I ever had, and lost nearly as much money as I'd made in 2014. And I tell you what, it broke an egg in me, and I'm still not over it. I got to the point where I really didn't care if I ran any cattle or not, and then ended up relocating and changing jobs, and I never have really got back into it because it broke an egg in me. And you guys know what I mean. Some of you young fellas or ladies that are just getting into this, it can change your life when you go through one of these big high peak markets there, and then it falls right off the back end. Now, everything that we're looking at shows that we're on a plateau, that we're climbing a plateau, and when we get up there, we've got some room to run at the handsome prices. And if you look at the market too close, like a lot of us do, especially me, because I'm looking at it every day, we get too worried about the little ups and downs of the board, or the cash market here and there, or the hard trading on the little dab of negotiated trade that we do. You know, I think we can't see the forest for the trees, and we need to step back and look at it and see kind of where we're at, and where are we in this process. Are we near the top? Are we about halfway up? I think we got a lot of room to grow, I really do. But I'm always reminded of my grandpa's old saying. He said, the money will run out before the cattle do. And everybody's worried about these tight numbers of cattle. And I was talking to another friend of mine who's pretty cautious on Wednesday, and he said, you know, they keep having sales. And they've got cattle at them every time, and he understood that some of the cattle are being sold back again or again, and that's a lot of our receipts at our auctions here last 6-8 months, is we just been selling our cattle to each other. You know, one guy will put some together, put a little weight on them, and then can't resist, and then he sells them. The next guy does the same thing. But we're seeing a lot of calves at the market right now, and you know, they're like you said, they're having sales, and there's several calves at them, and we still sell a lot of cows that go to the packer. Usually after they sell the calves, or maybe on another day, but every week we just keep selling them, and we keep selling them. And like he said, as long as we have calves coming to the auction ring, it's going to be a while before we completely run out of fat cattle. And like my grandpa always said, the money will run out before the cattle do. We're not going to run completely out of cattle, but we are in extremely tight numbers. But you know, the advice that I give people, just standing back and looking at the market, is protect yourself, but leave your top end open. And you know, I think the LRPs are a great way to do that. You can get an LRP which basically cinches you up, and then you can wait a while to sell them. You know, even if you're getting offers, you know, out front or whatever, you can protect yourself on the downside, leave your top end open, and I think we still got quite a ways to run. I still think the calves are cheap. You look at what these yearlings are bringing, and I was talking to some people at the beef event, WT, earlier in the week, and a lot of them were saying, when do you remember when you could buy cattle that will hedge? Fat cattle, or you could buy calves that you can get an LRP on and they'll work. You might not be able to buy the Cadillacs, but you can certainly do it. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and a lot of times it is. So I think as long as we see that, I think we've got some room to grow here. But you guys just take a step back and look and see what you think of things, but try not to concentrate on the little moves all the time. Talking about your board on Wednesday, October live cattle futures were up $1.10, taking a lot of the losses that we'd seen the last 2 days back, settling at 186.77. December was up $1.05 at 191.52. Back months up 70 cents to up 137. Feeder cattle for September up 67 cents at 254.17. October was up $1.22 at 260.57. Back months were all up on your feeder cattle contracts, up 55 to up 220. Corn for December, new crop corn up 6 cents at 482.25, which made the gains on the feeder cattle look even more impressive. November new crop beans up 4.5 at 13.20. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December down 2 cents at 7.29. Fat cattle trade, it's the middle of the week, and we've seen a little bit of trade, mostly to regional packers in the northern plains. In the Midwest, Iowa sold 500 head confirmed on Wednesday from 184 to 185, and that's really right in there tight, kind of on the upper end of the price range from last week. 293 dressed, which is nothing to sneeze at. They've been wanting to buy them in the high 280s to start off the trade the last few weeks. Nebraska, 1,400 head confirmed on Wednesday from 183 to 186. Southern Plains, of course, haven't traded a hoof at all, and I think it'll be impressive if they can hold the steady 182 to 183, and if they could get mostly 183, I think that would be a victory, frankly. After gaining so much last week. But we'll just see how they do. They might do better than that. Box beef cutout values are down again, and the choice is just barely clinging to $3 a pound. Your afternoon box beef cutout value report on Wednesday had choice cuts down 86 cents at 301.26, and selects down 310 at 278.68. Your slaughter continues to be disappointing, 374,000 through the first 3 days of the week. That's down 4,000 from last week, down 9,000 from the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Livestock Risk Services, that's Dakota Moss, and then I heard from Dakota Moss on Wednesday, said he was continuing to grow. He continues to add new territories, new states that he's licensed to operate in whenever he finds a customer that wants to do that. He's pretty much got all the states now that run enough cattle to really matter, so he can help you anywhere you're at. But he has changed up some of the agents that he's working with. We haven't got a graphic made up for that, but we will change that as soon as we can. But next time we talk about him, we will start featuring some of those different agents that he works with on the LRPs, as they are the specialists. For more information, go to livestockriskservices.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction late in the day on Wednesday, sitting at 251.98, down 88 cents. And we had some pretty impressive quotes there, but man, we've got that thing so high. If we have some big commodity cattle sales, it's going to pull it down a little bit, and we did see that on Wednesday there. Don't forget Heritage Place Horse Sales. That's Race and Quarter Horses has got their big yearling sale here today, on Thursday, on Friday, and Saturday. So you guys get on there. I know a lot of the cattle people are interested in horse racing. Sometimes it's just fun to watch that. But get on to DVAuction.com and check out Heritage Place. Talk about your big feeder cattle sales on Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 7,700 head, counting the Tuesday calf sale. The feeder steers were fully steady. Feeder heifers steady to $2 higher. The weaned calves they sold on Tuesday were $2 to $4 higher, and the ballers were steady to weak. But a good sale there at El Reno. They are a DV Auction broadcaster, so you can go on to DVAuction.com and view and bid the sales in El Reno every week. Talk about another sale that typically has a good offering. Winter Livestock in Dodge City, Kansas, 2,800 head there. That's a pretty good run for them. They've been running light because they just didn't have many cattle turned out in that country because it's so dry early in the summer. Feeders were steady. Calves 8 to 10 bucks higher. Some even more sharply than that, but it was mostly due to the outstanding quality because they had some reputation deals come in there, and a lot of them had an attractive flesh condition for the buyer. But they're going to have a big sale next week in Dodge City, Kansas. It'll be their anniversary sale celebrating 87 years in business. Wow, congratulations to the Winter Livestock crew there. Talk about your National Beef Wire stick-out sale of the day. For Wednesday, it was Bassett Livestock Auction, Bassett, Nebraska. They recently added DVAuction broadcasting, so you can view and bid the Bassett sales every time they have them now. 3,100 head there, and it featured mostly the heavier yearling feeders. And this could be most of the last of them, but it was mostly 2 to 4 bucks higher. They had 604 head of 9-weight steers in Bassett. They averaged 938 pounds with a weighted average price of $258.02. 436 head of 1,000 to 1,100 pound steers. They averaged 1037 with a weighted average price of $248.95, or no, $243.83, excuse me, $243.83. Now both the 9-weight and the 10-weight cattle there, that would be an impressive individual quote, and that was on some pretty good numbers. How about the heifers? 657 head of 8-weight heifers in Bassett, averaged $855 with a weighted average price of $248.95. 401 head of 9-weight heifers, averaged $939 with a weighted average price of $235.01. Talk about some individual quotes from all around. How about another market we haven't talked about for a long time? I told you on our previous visit that these regional sales from all around are having good runs and selling them impressively. About JC Livestock Sales in Junction City, Kansas. That's the Langbart family. That's an impressive crew of Langbarts, and Lynn Langbart's a friend of mine, and he's a world-class auctioneer, one of the best you've ever heard. But they've got a good sale up there in Junction City, Kansas. And they sold pretty impressive on Wednesday. About 55 head of steers weighed 666 and bring 287.75. Wow. How about Torrington Livestock Markets in Torrington, Wyoming? 92 steers weighed 751 and bring 278 in Torrington. That's impressive. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Winter Livestock in Dodge City, and one of those impressive consignments that I told you about. That 100 head of fancy black thin flesh steers weighed 542 and bring 321 1/4. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.